What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 198 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to talk to you about Hellboy, Conquering Worm. This is volume 5 of the trade paperback series, and if you'll recall, over the last few days I have been talking about how Mike Mignola will jump back and forth between stories that are very much connected to the overall series arc of Hellboy, and then he'll do stories that have nothing to do with that series arc. For example, volume 3 was a whole bunch of short stories that had nothing to do with Hellboy as a harbinger of the apocalypse, and he's going to destroy the world, and the Right Hand of Doom didn't have anything to do with any of that. At the end of volume 4, it seemed to me that Mike Mignola was getting rid of all of this mythos stuff that he was setting up in volumes 1 and 2 with Hellboy as the harbinger of the Ragnarok. It seemed to me like he was putting that story to rest and he wasn't going to be doing anything else with it. This story kind of brings it all back to the surface, and it says maybe that stuff is still going to happen, even though it seemed like it wasn't going to happen at the end of volume 4. This story brings back the Nazi head in a jar, who I thought had blown up in volume 2, but I guess he didn't blow up good enough. He is here, and he is trying to bring this evil space worm to Earth to eat all of humanity and basically destroy the planet. And we find out here, slight spoilers, that he is being manipulated by Rasputin's ghost, and then seemingly we see the last of Rasputin here, but you could arguably say that every time that we've seen Rasputin in the series that we had seen the last of him, and then he keeps coming back. So I'm not going to say with certainty that we did see the last of Rasputin, but it seems like we've seen the last of him here. But we get another callback to those aliens that we saw in either volume 1 or volume 2, I think volume 1, the ones that kind of look like Abe Sapien. We get a little bit of a callback to them and kind of what their purpose is in this universe. It doesn't answer every question, but it does give us a little bit of backstory on those guys. This also calls back to one of the standalone stories in, I believe, volume 4, Goodbye, Mr. Todd. This calls back to that and makes that part of the larger mythos. I kind of like that. This also introduces Lobster Johnson, my favorite Hellboy character. I love Lobster Johnson. I love that we don't really get any information about him. Every information that we get here is just shrouded in mystery. We still don't know a whole lot about him. Of course, we will find out more about him in spin-offs and later volumes of Hellboy, but right now we don't really know anything about him, but already I can tell you that this character is awesome just from what we see of him here. This also gives us Hellboy quitting the BPRD, which is something that we saw in Hellboy Volume 2. The circumstances are a little bit different here than they were in the movie, but I like the way that it's played out here. I like the reason that Hellboy quits, or at least part of the reason that he quits. I really like that quite a bit. I have no idea what Mike Mignola is going to do with this series from this point forward. I know around this time is when he started doing a whole bunch of spin-offs and minis of characters who were not Hellboy, the BPRD solo series or a series of minis. I know at this point he had already done an Abe Sapien miniseries where he brought back Roger the Homunculus, and that character is also in this story. And then I know around this time he eventually started doing Lobster Johnson minis. He did more Abe Sapien spin-offs. So around this time, I feel like Mike Mignola realized that he didn't just have a character in a world, he had an entire world of characters that he could use. He didn't just have to do Hellboy stories. If he wanted to do a Roger the Homunculus miniseries, he could. If he wanted to do Abe Sapien or Liz Sherman or Lobster Johnson or any of these characters, he could spin them off and do his own thing with those characters. So I don't know what is in store for Hellboy himself in the future volumes. I've read the next few volumes after this one, and I can't really remember what all is going on with the character once he leaves the BPRD, but it seems like this is not a good move for this series. It seems like taking him out of the BPRD is a huge reason not to keep reading. I'm not saying that you should stop reading if you're enjoying the first few volumes, but it seems to me like you're taking the major thrust of this series that kind of gives you the source for a lot of your stories, and you're taking that away. Hellboy can still fight monsters and stuff, but having the BPRD be what gives him these missions where they tell him, hey, there's an evil witch over here in Romania eating children, you need to go and kill that witch. Having the BPRD be the ones that give him these missions, that seems like that makes it a lot easier to tell stories regarding this character. So having Hellboy quit the BPRD, while it was an interesting character move, I'm not sure if it was a good story move concerning the series, but maybe I'll change my mind whenever I get to the next few volumes after this one. Overall, I really like Conquering Worm. It introduces my favorite Hellboy character. It's also a really good story. It ties up some stuff that was introduced in earlier volumes while also introducing a whole bunch of more questions that I don't know if and when those will be answered. But it's basically what I think an arc-based volume of this series should do. Introduces new questions while also putting to rest older questions and introducing new interesting characters. I really like this a lot. I think this is arguably my favorite volume of the series so far. So those are my thoughts on Conquering Worm. I hope that you guys liked this video, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back tomorrow with a different video. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.